Hi YouTube, my name is Pooja. I'm the author of The Haunted Wardrobe, which is a Halloween poetry book, and the author of The Spirits in the Attic, which is a winter poetry book. And today I'm doing something different. Usually I do a lot of writing vlogs. I wanted to change it up, and I wanted to talk about the expenses of being an author. I was hesitant to do this at first because I was scared that because I've published 2 books, I thought that if I am still in the negative, I don't have my stuff together. But I also like learning about how other people manage their finances within being an author, because it's easier to know where everyone is at. So I just felt like I wanted to talk about how much I made right now as being an author, as well as what expenses I also accrued within being an author. I don't want to I want to be honest, I still haven't made a profit yet. I know it's going to take a while for me to get there, but I'm also kind of relieved that I didn't spend thousands of dollars doing it, because when you see different videos, there's either people have spent $5 to $20,000, and it's very hard to know or to decipher what is enough to produce a quality book. I wanted to disclose what I have done, so then you have an idea of what other people are paying for. You may not go down my path, but you might have a better understanding of what people are paying for that are spending somewhere in the middle of those 2 extremes. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to first go through my expenses. So the first part is I'm going to go through my first expenses for my first book, which is The Haunted Wardrobe. And then there's also additional expenses that I had to make that may not, it was just before I even started publishing my book. There was additional expenses I also had to make before. So it's not technically only associated with The Haunted Wardrobe, but because I had to make it, it's kind of going to be included within the first book. So the first thing that I paid for was Vellum, which is, if you've ever published a book or formatted a book, it's one of the apps that you can do that automatically does it for you, and that's only available on the Mac. And I paid $249, and that was a flat fee, so I'm able to use it for any other book that I choose to format. The next one was Bawker, and I paid $295, and this is to pay for your own ISBN number. So I paid for 10 upfront with the price of $295. Then I paid for my book, The Haunted Wardrobe. I paid $65 for copyright. And then I paid $550 for a book cover designer for my first book, The Haunted Wardrobe. And then the next thing that I paid for was for Amazon. So I paid for 50 books for the author copy, and I paid $150 for that. So for the second book, I paid $550 for the book cover, and everything else like Vellum, Bawker, I already had the ISBN numbers and all that stuff, so I didn't have to pay an additional cost. The next thing is I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and there was a book convention that I decided to go to. I got selected, and I was able to sell my books during that convention. There was no vendor fee, so for me, I thought it would be a good opportunity. Even though I may not make the money back, I felt like it would be a good opportunity to get myself out there and learn about the author community and how other people, and get and to build connections with other people outside of my location. So for the total for that, then that's including the hotel, the transportation, and the food cost. And I run pretty cheap. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot in Louisville. I got a lot of my food. I carried a lot of my food. I drove there. It was a 5-hour drive. It was not a fun drive to do. I don't like driving 5 hours within 2 days each way. It's not fun, but I ended up spending total of $350.63 for that Louisville trip. And then this year, I decided to invest my time into, which I will later talk about, but my main driver of sales right now is doing a lot of book signings and doing a lot of book events. So I decided this year that I'm going to spend more time doing those things and investing my time in those resources. So there is one vendor event that is happening in March that I'll be attending, and to pay for my slot, it was $25, which is not bad at all. That's actually like kind of crazy how affordable that is. The next one is sometime in the fall, there's going to be an art fair in my city. So to pay for my slot, I don't know if I got selected or not, but to pay for my slot, I had to pay $75. Hopefully I get selected and I will make a profit off of that, but that was a $75 just to get selected or have the potential of getting selected. The next thing is I paid for an additional set of Amazon books, and I paid $32.92. And then I had the reason why I bought it was I had like a book signing this year, and which brings me to my next expense, which was $70.46 through Ingram Spark. Amazon, like 2 weeks prior before my book event, said that they canceled my order because they couldn't ship it or something went on. So they basically canceled my order. And 2 weeks in, I'm like frantically trying to figure out how am I supposed to get these books shipped to me on time before my event. So I paid an additional cost to Ingram Spark to ship it faster, and like I paid for a rush fee, so I ended up having to pay an additional $70.48 for that, which is ironic because the Amazon books, even though they said they canceled it, I ended up getting that faster than Ingram Spark. And then Ingram Spark I got a week after my book event, which is kind of crazy. Just to keep that in mind, always have books on stock. Do not wait till the last minute. I didn't. I actually ordered mine a month before, and I still had Amazon say, yeah, we're canceling your book. So I'm going to be more mindful, even though I am in the negative, to always have like 50 books for each book that I have. Probably have 50 books in stock just to account for inventory. So the total that I spent throughout all of my books was $2,413.01. So now I'm going to go to how much income I made throughout the years of selling my books. So in September of 2024, that was the first time I published my first book, The Haunted Wardrobe. And in KDP, I made $57.39. In October 2024, KDP, I made $17.55. There was a group that I'm part of. It's like a women's group, and a lot of the things that you do is just like a lot of like activities. They have a huge Facebook event, so I knew some of the people. I was friends with a lot of the people who started that community, and one of the book events they hold a lot of book club events, and one of the events they decided to host me as to do a book signing there. So from there, I made $66.97. Because it was a Halloween poetry book, I decided to do my own book signing, and I hosted it at a coffee shop. So from there, I made $37.55. In November, I made $8.21 on KDP. December, I had one in-person sale. It was just from my friends. She Venmoed me $12.99, and then I made $5.04 on KDP. So in January 2025, I made $8.25 in KDP. This year, I also decided to do consignment within two different indie stores. One indie store I made $7.79, and then the other one I made the same amount, $7.79. In February, I did not make any. I obviously didn't market, so I can't really fault myself for not making that much money. I think I was just overwhelmed with everything else. In March of 2025, I made $17.87 in KDP. And then also in March, I did a vendor. So I did a vendor event. So I made $54.97. Then in May, I made $5.49 in KDP. In May, so this is where it gets hairy because I didn't track like month by month by the end of the year because it just got busy. So I did two different book events. So within October, I tried to do a lot of different types of book events throughout the year. Two were Barnes & Noble events. So I made $268.28. I think that's the total of the two Barnes & Noble. And I think I made $52.20 $52.20 at the Louisville, Kentucky event last October. And so now for 2026, I haven't really marketed any of the books right now. The only thing I did was a book signing event at one of the Barnes & Noble, and I was able to make $155 in that cost. So throughout the years from 2024 to now, I have made $783.70, which leaves me at a loss of $1,629.31. I honestly thought I would have lost more, but I feel like I have an idea of how to make my money back. It's just going to take a while because the cost of like a cover also adds on. But I feel like once I have a good amount of books, people will want to buy more and more books. And that's what I've noticed, especially at the last event that I held. A lot of people wanted to buy both books at the same time. And because I had more variety, there was more things that people could choose from. So if they didn't like Halloween, some people preferred the winter poetry book because that fit their style. So I'm kind of glad that I went in a direction where a lot of these things were holiday themes, or even if they didn't really understand poetry or it wasn't their realm, they were able to have something resonated with them in that process. My goal for 2026 is I'm going to try to spend majority of my time trying to go to different vendor events or do a lot of book signing events and hopefully make my money up that way through inbound marketing. And then my next thing is I just want to build a following on YouTube and hone in on that while writing my books and finish more books by the end of 2026. Yeah, I think that's really it. I don't really fully know. I don't have specific goals right now. My specific goal is I want to publish my Valentine's poetry book in February 2027. I want to be able to make up my money, but I think my best efforts in making that money is to do book signing events. And that's what I've noticed is that I do well in person more than I do online. I would rather just focus my energy doing that because I know how hard it is to post on social media and be consistent on that, and it's just not something right now that I want to do. If I'm just being honest, I've managed people's accounts. I've done marketing in the past. It's a lot of work. I just don't have the capacity to do it, and I just don't want to do it right now. And I feel like this is what I can do right now is just to do a lot of marketing, a lot of book events. That's where I feel like my bread and butter is going to be at. I hope this video was helpful for anyone who is a current author, who wants to be an author. And let me know in the comments if you want me to do a progress update year by year or month by month. I would be happy to share it just so people know where they stand if they want to be authors or if they're a current author. That's all I have for this episode, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.